morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. On this Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, it is Election Day. I beg you to get out there and vote. If you're on the East Coast, you're already in line voting. You can watch us on the Fox Sports app. Don't have to miss a beat. And we've got a great 2 hours of show for you to keep you entertained as you are getting ready to vote, or maybe you have already. Let's start with a little Monday Night Football last night. This was a better game than most people expected. Giants and Bucs. Tampa favored by like 12 and a half. You wouldn't know it last night. They took a stop on a 2-point conversion to barely come away with a win in regulation over the Giants. Flag was thrown, but it got picked up after further review. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just escaped with a 25-23 oh-so-close win over the Giants to improve to 6-2. Here is Joe Judge on that controversial no call.
Yeah, I thought Nate made the right call when he threw the flag. So I'm not sure why it got picked up. We had a pretty good view. I know they can't use the Jumbotrons for replay. We had a pretty clear view of that as well. But I thought Nate made the right call the first time. I thought, normally your first instinct is the right one. So.
All right, Brandon, start with you. What'd you make of that no call at the end of the game?
Great call, Jenna. I'm glad that they picked it up. That's on Daniel Jones, Nick. He was late with the ball.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, that's first and foremost. He was late with the ball, and he threw it behind him. So that's on Daniel Jones. Yeah. I'm glad that the refs didn't get in the way from Tom Brady keeping this team on track, Nick. Okay. Look at this. Look at the ball. Yeah. It's behind him.
No one disagrees with that.
His first read is to the flat.
Wait a second. Let's be fair here, because Brady drew a very, very important pass interference penalty on a ball. It wasn't as badly thrown as this, but the reason it was PI was because it was underthrown and Mike Evans had to go back to the ball. That happens a lot.
That's right.
Here's the deal, America. The Giants were going to lose anyway because Daniel Jones, their quarterback, their best case was a tie. You get to overtime, take knees, and hold on for dear life. So I don't think this decided the game. And if there was no flag thrown, Wilds, I'd be fine with this. But just like Joe Judge was alluding to, it is irritating that a flag was thrown. And in my mind, when a referee sees a penalty and throws a flag, the only reason that flag should then be picked up is if there's new information presented, like the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage, therefore pass interference can't exist, or you didn't see another penalty in the illegal pick play, something like that.
It's bang, bang.
When you see a bang-bang play and you throw the flag, then I think you have to stick with that call, Wilds. I wouldn't, to be clear, I wouldn't be here saying they should have thrown a flag had they never thrown the flag. But because they threw it, I don't know how you pick that up, Wilds.
That's right. When you throw it and then you have your little conversation, what do you say? Like, it's either A, I accidentally threw it, or you just get sunned right in the little referee meeting where it's like, pick it up. Like, okay, I'll pick it up. Like, I had a better angle on it. No, you didn't. I threw the flag. And Brandon, I'm surprised you're not sticking up for wide receivers here. Just because the ball is not perfectly placed, you still have a right to make a play on the ball, don't you?
This is on your guy. This is your team. This is on your guy. You need to talk to Daniel Jones and say, look, buddy, your first read is the flat. Why are you hesitating? Throw the flat right away, and now you're tying the game up. But he didn't do that. Then he also threw it behind the guy. Throw it out to the pylon. You are taught as the quarterback. These are the fundamentals.
Brandon,
throw this ball to the front pylon.
Brandon, if that was you and the ball was thrown a little bit behind you, you would be okay and be like, it wasn't a pass interference. Granted, I didn't get a chance to make a play on the ball, but my buddy Jay Cutler can throw the ball 100 miles an hour, so it's not a big deal. I feel like you would be furious if this was you.
Of course I'll be flopping. Of course I'll be asking the ref to throw the flag and it was a pass interference. Of course I would. But when you look at it on film, it's not a PI. It was a bang-bang play. He got there right away. He didn't. If he violently ran into the guy, then it's a different conversation, Nick. But that was not the case.
This was a great no call. The flag Oh, but it wasn't a no call. That's the problem. The problem is a flag was thrown and then they overturned it. And just Jenna quickly, Wild said, what happens in that conference? I think the third option is the most likely, which is in that conference, the refs get together and say, fellas, picking this flag up sure would help Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. And, man, that's a guy that needs another break. So let's pick it up. Let's go home. Bucs
It's
win.
too early.
Giants
It's too early. It's the first block. Let's not argue. Jenna, can we move on? Because I don't want to argue.
Saying, Jenna.
We are going to.
I'm just saying.
Regardless of what happened on that play, the Bucs, you got to look at this team and say, well, what happened here? Why was it even so close? Why are we even talking about that? Do you guys still think, Brandon, I'll ask you, the Bucs are contenders after just barely beating a team like the Giants?
Well, first, before we even jump into that, I gotta admit that I was nervous watching this game. America, if you want to see a virtual fight, then you tune into First Things First when we're debating Tom Brady or Baker Mayfield. So watching this game, you can immediately see, Jenna, that this team, this Tampa Bay team, wasn't prepared to play. You saw Tom Brady slamming his helmet, trying to stay in keep his emotions under control, but he was mad. Why was he mad? Because there was no juice on that sideline. They started reverting back to shooting himself in the foot with these terrible penalties. And Tom was like, why are we not here to play? This is our year. So for me, right away, you can see that this team wasn't prepared. Sometimes you walk in the locker room before there's a snap even played, and you know, oh, crap, we're in for a long day. This is going to be a long 3 hours. So for me, they are still a contender 100%. This is a team that came in. This could have easily been a trap game, but they found a way to pull it through. And now if you're Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, Nick, what you do is you go in and say, here's the standard. To be a champion, you practice and you play the same every single day. This is not it. Because there's not a lot of fans in the stands, because it's not, we're playing against the New Orleans Saints, don't mean we don't have juice.
Yep.
Correct.
I think it was very clearly a trap game for the Bucs because they do have the Saints next week, because they had that great fourth quarter against the Raiders. And normally I would just give a team a pass for that. But, and again, like Brandon said, not to start a fight, but I did learn last week that Tampa fixing its penalty problem, Brady gets credit for it. The unseasonably warm fall they're having in the Tampa era, Brady gets credit for. So certainly, Tom Brady gets credit or blame if a team's not fully ready to play. And the other thing I said last week, Wilds, is, and Wilds, I know you're not a guy that holds a lot of stocks. You're more of a Bitcoin guy, but follow me here. The Bucs stock price was going to be at its season-long high. And I expected it to start dropping a bit. And while last night it didn't fall off a cliff, it's a few dollars a share cheaper than it was a week ago. And when they lose to New Orleans on Sunday, it's going to drop even further. And when we're entering, the middle of December, and it's like, oh, this Bucs team's going to be 10-6, 11-5. They're a good, not great team. People are going to say, man, I sure wish I sold that stock when it was trading up right alongside the Chiefs price. So I'm not going to ding them, take them entirely off the tier they were at, but I do think this team that was being discussed as maybe the best team in football, we saw the best team in football play a terrible team from New York this weekend, and we saw what that game looked like, and we saw what this game looked like, Wilds.
That's good. That's a good take. I'm still, if the Bucs stock continues to drop, I'll buy some. But right now, I'm happy. I'm happy with my position. Katanik, before we go to break, can we show the Brady slamming his helmet video real quick? Because Brandon, when I watched this, it reminded me of you when you said when you went to the sidelines and were frustrated, you knew that there were going to be a bunch of cameras on you. Because he's so mad, he's like, no, I'm not going to slam it. I'm not going to slam it. Yes, I am. I'll slam it here. I'm not going to slam it on like the helmet holders. There's like, he can say, no, don't do it. Don't do it. No, now I should do it. No, I'll do it. So that's my favorite play.
All right. Well, as angry as Brady was, he still got the win last night. Something Bill Belichick has not done much of this year. Check out this scene. That's a smile, I think, on Bill Belichick. That was a long time ago, gentlemen. So how does Bill explain all that success today?
No, this will be us after the Jets win.
Wait till you hear it. Next, first things first.
I love Wild giving me.
Moving on to the Patriots now. To think it was only 2 seasons ago that this team won the Super Bowl. Since then, they've lost not only Tom Brady, but seemingly their entire identity. Like Brandon talks about, Patriots are 2-5. They're on a 4-game skid for the first time since 2002. And guys, here's the capper. We're starting to hear rumors about them actually cleaning house. Yesterday, for the first time, Bill Belichick shed some light on how things got so bad so quickly.
I mean, look, we paid Cam Newton $1 million. I mean, it's obvious we didn't have any money. You know, it's nobody's fault. That's what we did the last 5 years. We sold out and won 3 Super Bowls, played in the 4th, and played in an AFC Championship game. You know, this year we had less to work with. It's not an excuse. It's just a fact.
The reason this is news is because when do we ever hear anything other than 3 or 4 words out of Bill Belichick? This finally shedding some light on what the last couple of years have been. And Wilds, I'll start with you. Is Bill Belichick making excuses for why his team is 2-5 right now?
No. First of all, Jenna, I think you do an excellent job. And I like I like when you take shots at Nick in the newsread. I like when you take shots at Baker Mayfield in the newsread. But then this Patriots thing, you're like, oh, the Patriots, this Gatorade dump, I don't know when that was. Who knows what's going on with this? Oh, boy, they should cancel the franchise. I'm like, Jenna, I thought we were supposed to be on the same team here. It's you and me versus Nick. It's all 3 of us versus Nick. Now all of a sudden you're stabbing me in the back. Anyways, look.
Never.
The Patriots got a bunch of dead money, okay? Here's the dead money. Carolina's got the most with 51. Jacksonville, the Jets, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Patriots, 26. Bill Belichick doesn't like that because Bill Belichick had to give Tom Brady a bunch of money. It's still sitting there, screwing up this year while he's playing for the Tampa Bay Bucs in MetLife. So I think Bill Belichick is mad. And when he says, hey, it's nobody's fault, well, it's somebody's fault, he's just saying it's not my fault. Bill Belichick wanted to move on a long time ago. Then this kind of got screwed up. I'm not a capologist, but you can read between the lines. And for anyone saying he's making an excuse, it's not an excuse. The person on the interview said, like, hey, well, some people are making an excuse. And he's like, what are you saying? He's like, well, I'm not saying it. Well, then it's not an excuse. No one is saying it's an excuse. Nobody. Bill Belichick doesn't say, he's just telling the truth.
Oh, wow.
So do we want the guy to either say...
Wilds.
No, Brandon, give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Actually, give me 17 seconds. 17 seconds. We either want this guy to go up in his hooded sweatshirt and grunt and give you non-answers, or he can explain how the league works. And fans of the NFL just need to decide. I would prefer he explain it and not crush him for it and say he's making excuses afterwards. Okay, Brandon, go. 17 seconds.
He just tried to explain it. He talked about the cap. He talked about how many Super Bowls they went to and won and AFC championships. Like, it's an excuse. And it's an excuse because all we've been talking about for the past 20 years is the Patriot way. This isn't the Patriot way. This is why they're crowned kings, because they always find a way to get it done. They always make the right decision. They always let the player go before his time is up, before everyone else would let him go. So this is not the Patriot way. So for Bill Belichick to sit here and make these excuses, it shows how human they finally are, right? Like, they've been standing on this pedestal for so long. If I'm Cam Newton in this situation, I'm ticked off. I'm ticked off because you sold me the Patriot way. Now, can Cam Newton play better? 100%. But when you look at the other side of it, you don't get me no help, no wide receivers, no tight ends, and you expect me to go out there and play at a high level? Well, when you sat me down on the bench and you said, hey, we're going to put in our second string quarterback, then you should also pass your headset to Josh McDaniels and sat next to me. Let's hold each other accountable. I'm not doing my job at quarterback, and you're not doing your job at head coach GM.
Okay, so a number of things here. And this, I think, belies, if you watched the show yesterday, what Brandon was referencing earlier, he and I got into a heated argument, if you will, about Baker Mayfield, and I'm starting to understand why. I believe there is a big difference between an excuse and an explanation. I think Brandon very often lumps them into the same category, which a lot of athletes have been trained to do. That anything that is not get it done is an excuse, right? Like, I think that's how you guys are trained to hold yourselves accountable. To me, the wind with Baker, and we don't have to relitigate it, was an explanation. To you, it was an excuse. To me, what Belichick is doing this week is an explanation, and to you, it resonates as an excuse. And you're not the only one. That wasn't me trying to take a shot. I just think it's a different way people look at things. But what I find most interesting is whether it's an excuse or an explanation, it is out of character for Belichick. He doesn't usually give either. And that's what Jenna was referencing, and that I totally agree with. And I think it is telling that he is, because typically Belichick's MO with the media is, my work speaks for itself. I'm not going to feed you anything. I'm not going to give you anything, because we're going to win 11, 12, 13 games, and y'all are going to have to shut up. This year, I think Belichick knows the work might not speak for itself. So, Brandon, that's why I think he's giving a little more actual, exactly right, which is why he's giving a little more actual information. Now, whether it's an excuse or an explanation or, you know, all of the above, it is, I think we all agree, Brandon, this interview was out of character for Bill Belichick. And I think that is very telling.
Well, we said it. Yeah, we said it 2 weeks ago. We're like, look, is it time to have this conversation about who was more important to this run, this dynasty? Was it Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? A lot of people were talking about it this offseason, and nobody started it up. We did like 2 weeks ago. And for me, it says a lot, because when you have you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, to me, that's everything. And we put Bill Belichick sometimes on a higher pedestal when really they're equal. Bill Belichick, he's known as the greatest coach of all time. He is the greatest coach of all time. But let's see you get it done without Tom Brady. That's what we all wanted to see, Wiles. We wanted to see your all-time great coach get it done without Tom Brady. And he's showing us that he's not doing that, and now it seems like he's making excuses.
So the question is this. I think it's a fair point, Brandon. When is the paper due? When is your final doctorate on Brady versus Belichick due? Is it due at week 17 that you're supposed to hand in your paper? Or is it due next year? Or is it due in 4 years? Or whenever Belichick decides to hang it up? Because I think everyone in the media wants to say it's due at week 8. It's over. Here's my paper. I'm done with it. Grade me right here. Oh, Brady's the winner. That's my thesis statement. I don't think that's the way necessarily Belichick is looking at it. I think Belichick, and I don't think we're tanking. I don't expect to make any moves today. But I think that Belichick may have a longer view than the media does in the Brady versus Belichick
Belichick's window
battle.
is longer. Of course. No. There's no doubt that's right. There's no doubt that's right, because Belichick knows you can coach till you're 70. And so even though Belichick's old as far as coaches go, he's not as old as far as coaches as far as Brady is compared to quarterbacks. So he is taking the longer view. But where I do need to circle back for a moment, what is not explained or excused by Tom Brady not being there, by the cap situation, by the opt-outs, by any of it, is why Bill Belichick has not hit on a first-round pick since Chandler Jones. Why he has not hit on a second-round pick since Jimmy Garoppolo. A big reason the Patriots are where they are is 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015. They didn't have a clear win from any first or second-round pick. And I know it can sound like revisionist history, but if you just go to the 2019 draft and just ask random Pat fans, hey, who's the wide receiver that excites you the most? You know what a lot of them would have said? I'm not sure the guy's name, but he looks like He-Man. I think he played in Mississippi. He's got initials DK something. And you know what I think most college football fans would have said? And they took N'Keal Harry. Hey, your team's going to draft a Georgia running back. Which one do you want? Everybody would have said Nick Chubb. Instead, they took Sony Michel. If just those two picks are different, if instead of Sony Michel and N'Keal Harry, you have Nick Chubb and DK Metcalf, this is all different. And the cap would be the same. The picks would be your future cap would be the same. The dead money would be the same. Fair. So there is part of this that Belichick's misses in the draft recently have come to roost a bit, which is one of the reasons the roster is somewhat bereft of talent. Yeah.
And Nick, this is why I get frustrated with you on this Tom Brady discussion, because who was there to cover it up? It was Tom Brady. So when you crush Tom Brady, that's why I can't understand it, because a great quarterback can cover up all of these little mistakes that guys make in special teams and defense, even in the scouting department. So
Brandon,
that's why I get frustrated with you. It's time for you to put respect.
I totally get that.
Well, put respect on his name.
We agree on that.
Respect on him.
No, Tom Brady used to be great. Jenna, he used to be great. It's no doubt about it.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about this. The Patriots get to rest this coming week because they have to play the Jets. Let's take a turn now. Have we seen the end of Jimmy G as a 49er? That is next. First things first. My joke didn't work. Back here talking the injury-riddled 49ers. How riddled, you ask? Impact players, both sides of the ball, missing, including now Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle. Both injured, both out indefinitely. So what does this mean for Jimmy G? Well, this is the third time in the last 5 seasons that he has dealt with a serious injury. His $24 million base salary not guaranteed for next season. So, Brandon, they tell me the best ability is availability. Should the 49ers move on from Jimmy G?
Well, first of all, you never want to see a guy injured. Playing in the NFL, it's inevitable. We all get injured, so don't want to see that. But when you get an opportunity to upgrade a Kyle Shanahan's offense, you take advantage of it, and they can easily upgrade this offense. But I am excited to hear Nick Wright's take. You know, when we have these debates and these discussions about quarterbacks, I don't know where he's coming from. It's like really good quarterbacks, he crushes them. Really bad quarterbacks, he finds a way to show them love. So I'm actually more excited to hear your take, than mine. For me, I love Kyle Shanahan. I love Kyle Shanahan because he's the reason why I was drafted. I flew into the Houston Texans for pre-draft work. And Kyle Shanahan looked at me and said, look, Brendan, we just took Eric Moles. He's signing today. We're not going to draft you. So what do you want to do? You just want to watch film? Let's talk a little football. So we talked a little football, talked a little shop. I leave. I'm scheduled to go back to Florida. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from my agent saying, you're now going to Denver. Kyle Shanahan called his dad and said, you need to take this guy. Fast forward to the draft. I was drafted in the 4th round. That offense is special. That's one of the reasons why I was set up for success as a player, because of his dad. Now you take Kyle Shanahan, who took Coach Shanahan, Mike Shanahan's offense, and put so much more behind it. This guy has the perfect mix of attitude, X's and O's to take an offense, take a team to the next level. And Jimmy G is holding them back, Nick.
Right, and that's why they got to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, because he's playing with a cheat code offense, and he still can't even get past the first-level boss. Like, sorry, he's not very good, guys. He's just not. Oh, my God, but he played in a Super Bowl. Yep, so did Jared Goff. He ain't that good either. Nick Foles won one. He stinks. So sometimes we can't just be results-oriented. How many games did the team win? We got to watch the play. And you know how I know Jimmy Garoppolo's not that good? Because the Niners told us this offseason, when they not only flirted with adding Tom Brady, but admitted to it publicly. It's like, well, do we want to add a guy who's 12 years older than this quarterback who just took us to the Super Bowl? Maybe. Let's have multiple meetings about it. Let's discuss it long. That's what happened. And so the contract is as such, as Jenna alluded to. It's $2 million of dead money to move on from him this offseason. And if I'm John Lynch running a team that has Kyle Shanahan's offense, as the leading factor on that side of the ball, I want to have one of two things at quarterback. I either want what everybody wants, which is a star, or as cheap as can be. Because guess what, Wilds? They're going to go to Nick Mullins this week, and the offense is going to look the same. So I think that you don't need a great quarterback in this offense, and if you don't have a great quarterback, then spend the money elsewhere. So I say unequivocally, absolutely yes, this should be the end for Jimmy Garoppolo after this season in San Francisco.
So my big takeaway from that is results don't matter, right? The guy wins games. Doesn't matter if he wins games. Doesn't matter if he gets a Super Bowl. Brandon, what's the point of all of this then? What's the point of playing in the NFL? What are you supposed to do?
Wait,
you said about Baker. What are you supposed to do?
Wilds, wait. You
Win the Super Bowl.
No, mute button.
Okay.
Mute him.
Go ahead.
It's to win games,
Win the
right?
Super
You were
Bowl.
like, Baker has to win games.
That's right.
Win the Super Bowl.
That's right.
He almost won the Super Bowl. He's 26-9. He's won 74% of his games, which granted is less than like Secretariat and Mike Tyson, but it's more than Bill Belichick. So he's 2-0 Patriots, 5-0, 1-2, 13-3, 3-3, and 2-1 in the playoffs. Like, what is out there, Nick? We're like, act like, I'd move on. I'm going to move on. And Nick will like, okay. So when it goes bad, and you're like, wow, why did we give up the quarterback that was 26-9 for a guy named Nick Mullins?
Well, here's the issue is because exactly what you said, the goal is to win the Super Bowl. And this is a guy that can help you maintain, but he can get you over the edge. Go back to last year. Go back to the last couple years. They went from throwing it around the field, throwing it around the yard, to literally him throwing it 12, 15 times a game. It was almost like the Baker Mayfield flow, where it's like, oh, we found our identity. Let's just run the ball and play action. That's what this guy does, Jimmy G. He can easily go out there and throw it for 30 times a game, 300 yards a game, but he's just not capable of doing that. So that's why I think they're exploring moving on. And that's why if the right opportunity approaches itself, Nick, they probably will pull the trigger.
Yeah. Wilds, I got an answer to your question, Wilds.
Okay.
Do you know who Michael Frater is? I'd be certain. It's not a trick question. The answer is probably no. Okay. He's, in his career, has never lost a 4x100 relay. He's undefeated. You know why? Because he gets to run with Usain Bolt and Asafa Powell. So his record, hey, let's win golds. Hey, Michael Frater, he's got to be one of the greatest track and field performers ever.
Sounds good.
Or he just happened to be right place, right time with some all-timers. Jimmy Garoppolo has gotten to steward the ship for 6 quarters under Bill Belichick, and then in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan's offense, with Hall of Fame left tackle, with Nicky Bosa, with Richard Sherman as of late, with all those first-round picks on the defensive line. Right. And so it cannot just be quarterback wins with a Z. It's got to be a little more nuanced. And by the way, folks have no problem doing the nuance in the other direction. Does anyone think Joe Burrow has stunk this year? Anyone unveiling that take? Joe Burrow, bust. Bengals have won twice. No. Because we're like, okay, they haven't won, but it hasn't been his fault. Yeah. Justin Herbert as well, Jenna. Well, they keep blowing these leads. Herbert must be terrible. It's like, nope, we watch the games. Quarterback's excellent. You got to be able to do it in the other direction. You got to be able to say that, you know what? Golf is, I throw golf in this bucket as well. Not any good.
Can I ask a question? Real quick, can I ask a question?
Oh, here we go. Baker.
Isn't that Baker Mayfield?
Yeah,
Isn't that Baker Mayfield?
I knew it.
Isn't that Baker Mayfield?
I knew Baker.
No.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew Baker was coming up.
I knew it. Here's what I think. I say Kyle Shanahan goes out and gets Matty Ryan, brings him back when they reunite for a little magic.
It's a great take, Jenna.
All right, time now for a little.
Great take.
Time now for a little now. Thank you, Nick. New Sixers president Daryl Morey tweeted out a screenshot FaceTiming with his new star Joel Embiid. Check out the shot of Embiid and tell me how happy this guy looks. Clearly, Morey not mentioning the words small ball to his 7-footer. Also hot. Nick, you in or out on FaceTiming with your new boss?
Oh, I'm absolutely in on it. I think it's a great job by Joel Embiid. It's a great job by my pal Daryl Morey. And by the way, I know we don't have the ability to remember anything in this country anymore. Folks, Daryl Morey built a team around Yao Ming. The idea that he's small ball or nothing is ahistorical. He is going to work great with Joel Embiid and surround Embiid with talent, Wilds. So I think this is going to work. They're not going to go small in Philly.
Granted, but now Daryl Morey has 24 hours, Jenna, to post a FaceTime with Ben Simmons, or it's going to be like, favorite son type stuff. 24 hours. And then Tobias Harris.
Side by side as well. All right, let us get back to the closest of closest wins for Tom Brady. We'll talk about that. Plus, the Niners are in trouble. They're all injury riddled. We got a lot coming up. Stay with us. First things first. This weekend, Pac-12 football returns. Arizona State taking on USC. It's the big noon Saturday game of the week on Fox or over on FS1. Big Ten heavyweight Michigan battles Indiana. Both those games are Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox and FS1, and as always, streaming live on the Fox Sports app. Back to our top story this morning, Giants and Bucs. You know, Tampa was favored by like 12.5 in this one. You wouldn't even know it last night. It took a stop on this 2-point conversion to come away with the win in regulation. Flag was thrown, it got picked up, and the Bucs escaped with a narrow 25-23 win to improve to 6-2. Here's Giants head coach Joe Judge on that controversial no call.
Yeah, I thought Nate made the right call when he threw the flag. So I'm not sure why it got picked up. We had a pretty good view. I know they can't use the jumbotrons for replay. We had a pretty clear view of that as well. But I thought Nate made the right call the first time. I thought, normally your first instinct is the right one. So.
All right, Brian Westbrook is joining us now this morning. Brian, good morning. Thanks for hanging with us. Why don't we start with you? What did you make of that controversial DPI no call at the end of the game?
Absolutely the right call at the end of the game. Throw the flag. Antoine Winfield Jr. got there early. He got there and didn't turn around and look towards the quarterback, look for the ball. And here's the thing. Dion Lewis, as a receiver, has the ability to come back to the ball. It's almost like a back shoulder throw for a wide receiver. You have the ability to come back to the ball. But and so it certainly was the right call. I'm not sure why they picked up the flag, but I also understand why they did. Think about this. The Giants are 1-6 coming into the game, and they have Daniel Jones as their quarterback. The Tampa Bay Bucs, the new New England Patriots, are 5-2, have Tom Brady as their quarterback.
And there you go. One of those guys.
Well, think about this. The refs throw the flag. They come together and they say, well, timeout. Let's realize what's going on here. We're going to give the Giants, who are 1-6, the opportunity to try to win this game and go to overtime? No way. We're going to go and we're going to allow
Standing ovation for Brian Westbrook.
And that's what happened. In football, it's the same thing in basketball. Better players, better teams get calls, Brandon, and this is exactly what happened last night.
Let's not bring LeBron into this. We don't need to muddy the waters. Let's just leave your great take exactly where it was. What changed between the time the refs threw the flag and when they all got together? Here's what changed. 4 words, 2 names. Daniel Jones in this hand, Tom Brady in this hand. Well, if it's close, Tom's had some rough breaks lately. Let's just give it to old Tommy. So it took 48 minutes, but I'm glad someone on this show, Brandon, had the courage that Brian Westbrook has from his palatial estate, wherever he is right now. And I don't know if he's in Brooklyn or D.C. or the Netherlands, wherever he's living at the moment. It was palatial estate to give the cold, hard truth about what we saw on Monday Night Football, Brandon.
So since you guys want to react and respond emotionally, I'm actually going to react and just break down the fundamentals of football. First of all, it was a great job by the refs picking up the flags, B. I'm shocked that you went this way. You're Nick Wright, he must have paid you off, because this is absolutely a great job by the Tampa Bay Bucs. He played it perfectly. It's a bang-bang play. He got there right when the ball was coming. Now, if he violently knocked this guy off track, then we could be saying, this is a bad call. But I absolutely love the refs not getting in the way. Now, let's go to Daniel Jones, break down the fundamentals. First of all, Daniel Jones is late with the ball. Second, he throws it behind the receiver. And then what are you taught as a wide receiver when the ball is thrown behind you? Come back to the ball and force the refs to call the pass interference. None of that happened, and that's why these guys are losing games the way they are, because of the fundamentals, starting with their quarterback. This is your read. If the flat is there, throw it right away. Brian, how many flat routes have you caught for touchdowns in the National Football League? Come on. You know the quarterback got to get it out of his hands right now. He hesitated. He looked at the slant when he should have went straight to the flat.
Okay.
It's certainly a late throw. Jenna. There's no doubt about that. But the receiver has the ability to come back to the ball, Wilds, and you have to believe that this is pass interference.
All right, Wilds, jump in here.
Well, I've got two takes. One is I didn't realize that it was tinfoil hat day on the show with everyone claiming that there's vast conspiracy theories about Tom Brady, or I wouldn't have spent so much time on my hair. I just would have gone to the kitchen and fashioned a hat out of tinfoil like Nick does. Secondly, this one is actually an interesting take, not about hairstyles. I bet, and there's been Sloan studies on this is what home field advantage is, that if the place was rocking, if MetLife was rocking, and there was a big cheers, like, okay, we're going to go, that the refs would not pick up the flag. That the 50, 60,000 people in MetLife would put enough pressure on the refs, and this is not like it's not something they actually think of, it's just like human nature, that the pass interference would have stood. That's my take.
Jenna, just quickly, because since Wilds, okay. I don't know if he was taking a shot at my hair or my take with the tinfoil thing. I just want America to understand what everyone's favorite, television rapscallion Kevin Wilds just said in 45 seconds. It is lunacy conspiracy theory to think the refs could be influenced by Tom Brady, but totally believable they would have been influenced by 70,000 strangers.
By 70,000.
Okay. If that's the take, that they could be influenced by a crowd, but not by which team is supposed to win,
not a take. That's
I
facts.
feel like Wilds.
Oh, my goodness.
Right, and you know what's also facts?
That's your buddy Daryl Morey Sloan.
He's gotten every call for 20 years. You know what's also facts?
True.
These calls always go Brady's way. That's also facts. So you do a Sloan study on that one, Jenna. I'm excited for the results.
Jenna.
What's up, Brandon?
Jenna, it's not true. These guys are emotional right now. Fundamentals. It wasn't violent. He didn't knock the guy off track. Daniel Jones throw the ball to the front pylon, and you get you get this score, and it's this 2-point conversion, and it's a different conversation. You didn't do your job, Daniel Jones. So when we break down the quarterback position, yes, you can talk about the turnovers, and he's Ryan Leaf Jr., but these are the fundamentals. You drop back and throw it to the flat right away.
Brandon Marshall, our voice of reason. He's not Ryan Leaf Jr. He's actually Ryan Leaf. Daniel Jones careless once again with the football, and it cost his team. He threw 2 more interceptions in the second half last night. Guys, that is 13 turnovers in 8 games at last check. Brian, back to you. Where is your confidence meter on Daniel Jones as the Giants franchise quarterback?
Jen, I wrestled with this, and I struggled with this topic for a little bit here. And I have to be honest, and I'm just going to say this. I watched Daniel Jones, all of his throws all season long, and I think the kid actually can play. Here's a problem that he's facing in New York.
God.
They don't have a very good team around him. They don't have their star running back. I think that if he has the types of receivers that Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow has, even though I like Sterling Shepard, and I like Darius Slayton, they're still not the 6'4" guys that Herbert has there out there with the Chargers. He's not the guys that they have out there with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. But if he had those types of guys, he wouldn't have to press as much. These types of throws that he's making, these interceptions, and I know there's been every single game except for one he's thrown an interception. I understand that. But he's pressing. He's trying to do too much because he's a good player. He's looking around him and saying, okay, I don't have a bunch of talent around me. I have to do more. I have to overcome some of the deficits in talent, and that's why he's making some of these plays. You put some better players around him, I think he plays a total different type of football game, and he's a better player because of it.
Nice.
I do think
Well said, nice.
that the Giants would be drastically helped. To support Brian's point, I do think the Giants would be drastically helped by adding some speed at receiver, so after Jones throws a pick, someone can chase down the corner. But that's it. This is Brian's all-time worst take. The guy has played 20 career games. 19 of them, he's turned the ball over. 8 of them. He's turned the ball over more than once. And folks, I know some people aren't going to want to hear it, but the nerds are winning the quarterback evaluation debate. 4 years ago, the football folks, the biggest discrepancy between football folks and nerds on who could be good and who's going to stink, Mitch Trubisky. Nerds hated him, football folks, oh, big, strong, athletic. Okay, nerds won. Next year, you know who it was about? Josh Allen. Oh, he can throw the ball 45 miles per hour through a 90-mile-an-hour wind the other direction. Buffalo's perfect for him. Who cares that he completed 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 6 passes every game in Wyoming? He can be great. Nerds said, no, he can't. Nerds are going to win. And the next year was Daniel Jones. The nerds, of which I am either part of the community or nerd adjacent, said, the hell you doing here, folks? And Dave Gettleman said, I watched him saunter into the Senior Bowl and I was smitten. It was like my first time at the soda pop shop in 1962. And we all said, you sound ridiculous. This guy can't play. And Brandon, he can't play. He can make a lot of throws, but he can't play in this league. The nerds were right about him. They've been right about a lot of these guys.
I agree. And Brian, why'd you go there, man? He's just not good. You know, here's the thing. Let's take the interceptions out of there. We know that he's right there on pace with Ryan Leaf. He's right there with Ryan Leaf, all-time worst quarterback. Let's break down what we need to be looking at the quarterback position. What is your feet work, your footwork in the pocket? That last play that we keep highlighting, this is why this is important. Because what you want the quarterback to do is take a 3-step drop and throw the flat if they give it to you. That's your first read. So there should have been no hesitation. What did he do? He peeked at the slant, then he went back. Look at it. Look at his feet. He said, why are you hesitating? When I sat there with Mark Trestman in Chicago and he broke down the quarterback position to Jay Cutler, he broke down the quarterback position to Josh McCown. He said if the flat is there, whether we have slant flat, curl flat, you take it right away. I don't care if it's one-on-one cover 3 because that flat could be a touchdown. That flat could potentially go for 15 yards. Post routes, the post route, throw it on the hash. Why aren't you throwing it on the hash? Why are we continue to make these same mistakes? You don't have to press. Just do your job because you're not just being evaluated on your stats. What you're being evaluated on is, are you actually going through your reads? Are you going through your progressions? Are you making the right decisions? Assignment, alignment, that's what we're looking at.
Brandon, you are a tough judge. You're tougher than Joe Judge as far as our judges go in the Giants conversation. Quick caveat, correction. The nerds did not say, quote, the hell you doing? No, the nerds do not say that, Nick. So that's just not nerd speak. So quick correction there. Brian, I'm going to be in the middle because the Giants have 8 games left, and we don't really know if Daniel Jones is any good or not. The nerds say he's not. Brian says he's good. Call me crazy. I'm going to side with Brian. The first touchdown that Daniel Jones threw,
oh my goodness,
and the last one that he threw were absolutely beautiful. They were beautiful. So I'm like, yeah, I get it. So I think he's right there in the middle, and I think we've got 8 games left. Look at this play. This is an absolutely gorgeous play. So the Giants have 8 games left. You got 2 categories of quarterbacks.
A gorgeous
good ones,
play.
Not so good ones.
It's a gorgeous catch.
Here are the good ones. Yeah, it's both. Here are the good ones. Burrow, Wilson, Kyler, and Lamar. That's category A. Here's category Z. Whoever's starting a quarterback for Washington, Wentz, Baker, and probably Andy Dalton. After these 8 games, this is the final test for Daniel Jones. I think the Giants management has to sit back and say, all right, which category is he in? Is he in the Russell Wilson, Kyler, Lamar category? Or is he in the Carson Wentz, Baker, Andy Dalton, whoever Washington has category?
He's
and
worse
I think that
than
will
all
determine
those guys.
His future.
He's in his own
Yes, we'll have to wait and
is.
see if he's a franchise quarterback or not. But speaking of franchise quarterbacks, the Patriots might be in the market for one. Things have really changed in New England since we've seen scenes like this. And now we may be learning why. We'll tell you next. First things first.
You don't break this up.
America.
Don't break this up.
Brandon and I agreed on.
About Back here talking Green Bay Packers now. With today's trade deadline fast approaching, the Packers' reliance on Davante Adams as their top target, maybe their only target, is a topic of conversation yet again in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers was asked about the Packers potentially adding another offensive weapon before the deadline. Taking a listen to what he had to say.
The trade deadline's in 2 days. Do you need to add to that position to be the offense that you want to be long term?
Well, Ryan, it's not a bad question, but it's not one that I can answer. We've had many conversations about this type of thing over the years. And I, truly understand my role. I'm not going to stomp for anybody. Last time I stomped for a player, he ended up going to Buffalo. So I like the guys that we have.
I feel like with that hat, commit to over the ears or under the ears, but the halfway doesn't work for me. But that's neither here nor there. Brian, would the Packers be making a mistake not adding another offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers up there in Green Bay as the trade deadline fast approaches the end of today?
Jenna, first of all, that's a great no answer by Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's no way that you win that conversation of whether you should add people or not. That was a great no answer. Offensively, I think they're okay. And this is what I believe. I think Davante Adams, we know that he is a great athlete, one of the best in the game. They get Aaron Jones back healthy. Of course, they have Williams. They have the inside-outside run game in the back that can seal the deal in the pass game. I think offensively, they're okay. To me, if you're going to add anything to this team, instead of adding the receiver and trying to outscore teams, how about you add someone on the defensive side? At this point, their defense is one of the worst defenses in the league with takeaways. They only have 2 interceptions and 2 recovered fumbles at this point. They're also they have one of the highest passer rating against their defense. Only the Vikings, the Texans, and the Falcons are worse than them. So to me, the offense is going to be okay if they get some takeaways on the defensive side so that their offense can have shorter fields and easier ways to score. And then defensively, if you can just stop the pass, I don't think your offense is going to have to score as many points. So offensively, I think you're set. Defensively, you got to find some more playmakers if you want to help your offense win football games.
Yeah.
Brian, you nailed it. Brian, you absolutely nailed it. It's not about the offensive side of the ball. Last year, why'd you lose to San Francisco? Because they bullied you. This year, when you've lost the 2 games you've lost, why'd you lose to Tampa? They bullied you. Why'd you lose to Minnesota? You couldn't stop Dalvin Cook. It's the defense, most notably the front 7, which is why it's been so curious to see them stand pat when in the last 2 weeks, Seattle added Carlos Dunlap. Baltimore added Yannick Ngakoue. Tennessee added Desmond King. The Steelers just added Avery Williamson. New Orleans added Quan Alexander. Detroit added Everson Griffin. There's more. Arizona added Marcus Golden. San Francisco added Willis, and Tampa Bay added Steve McClendon. That's 9 teams that are competing for the playoffs, most of which, by the way, in the NFC, all who added defensive players. Where the hell you been, Gutekunst? Like, what are you doing? These are players that could help you right now, and they were available. And so, Brandon, I do think they should be active today. I don't think they will be, but I don't think it's to add a weapon. I think it's to add someone in that front 7 to help that defense.
Yeah, but Nick, is it really their MO? I mean, they haven't been aggressive in free agency. They haven't been aggressive at the trade deadline. That's just not the Green Bay Packers' MO. Now, when I saw this, I'm like, okay, it doesn't seem like they need an addition. They really need an adjustment. And what does that mean? Like, outside looking in, yeah, adding more weapons to Aaron Rodgers, arsenal could be deadly. But at the end of the day, like, he has what he needs. Now, is it what he always had back in the glory days? No. But he has a really good tight end. He has a dominant dog #1 wide receiver. He has 2 running backs. He has Allen Lazard, practice Thursday, should be coming back soon. Valdez-Scantling, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He had 1 target last week, but this is a guy that can play. So does he really need that? No. And then to your guys' point, on the defensive side, really need help when you talk about personnel. But sometimes the NFL just catches up to you from a scheme standpoint. That's why I say they need more of an adjustment than an addition, because what's happening? This team, they're not bad from a personnel standpoint. Is teams keying in on what they do well and where their weaknesses are? They have a really good offensive line. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They got Aaron Rodgers. Defensively, they're just okay, middle-of-the-road type defense, but enough to hold up and give Aaron Rodgers a chance. So for me, I think it starts with the coaching staff.
You know what I want? I'm a sentimental guy. Randall Cobb back to Green Bay. Well, the Texans aren't doing anything. 1-6. Like we're at this point, you fired Bill O'Brien. And you're 0-4, and then you're 1-6. I think it's fair. You could go to Deshaun Watson and be like, hey, you know what? And the chaplain will come down and say, like, hey, you know what? We're going to plan for next year. I'm in charge now in a very curious way. So, hey, Randall Cobb, he called the Packers his ex-girlfriend. It'd be nice for them to reunite, like take some pictures together. Aaron Rodgers is happy, got some great photos. It'd be lovely. So Randall Cobb back to Green Bay.
So here's my question to the group. Does anybody right now think the Packers, as presently constituted, are good enough to win the NFC? Does anybody think that?
Yes.
Not that it's impossible.
I believe
you
so.
do. With no moves. No moves that they could.
With an adjustment. I do.
What's the adjustment, Brandon? I want to hear. I'm curious.
The adjustment, to me, is more scheme because, like, I mean, we gotta peel back the layers. It's a really intriguing conversation because when you look at how this team is set up, offensively, their offensive line is really good. Their running game, they have two really good running backs, and they have Aaron Rodgers with some pass catchers that can get it done. Defensively, they're not great, but it's enough. The last time they won the Super Bowl, they were set up the same way. So it has to start with the scheme. Teams are keying in on them. Look what the Tampa Bay Bucs did to them. They made them look like a JV team. So that's why I say they do have enough if the coaches make the adjustments that they need necessary going into November, December.
Okay. You know, Brandon, this is why I'm focused on the defensive side of the ball, because when you get bullied in the run game, that takes the ball right out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. So every team that comes in and plays the Green Bay Packers, they're saying, let's just run the ball down their throat. And that way, Aaron Rodgers can't touch the football. They have to be better on the defensive side of the ball so they can get those explosive players, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Devontae Adams, the ball back in their hands for them to win football games, not to put it in their defensive hands and lose football games.
Hey, Brian, I want to quickly ask you about this. It was announced yesterday that Chicago Bears receiver Javon Wims was suspended 2 games for this weekend, punching Saints D-back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on Sunday. What do you think? Was the 2-game suspension for Wims too much, too little, or just right, Brian?
You know, if I was the guy making these decisions, I know John Runyon makes those decisions for the league office, I would have considered actually suspending them for more games. This is the type of thing that I don't think belongs in our game. It's because it's not in the flow of the game. This has absolutely nothing. There was nothing going on at the point for this to actually happen. In my opinion, football is about discipline. Football is about concentration, not a street brawl. And I hate seeing things like this.
I agree, but Nick Wright, he has a lot of good information. Nick, I want to hear from you because you I don't know if you got inside scoops and you got people on the inside on these teams.
One of
you
my
have
sources.
the backstory. Tell us, because it may change your perspective a little bit. B, I know this has no place in football, but that on the other side, this dude needs to be held accountable as well.
So here's the deal. This might be a controversial take to some. Wims says Gardner-Johnson spit at him. And if someone spits at you, you're allowed to punch them. I'm not talking about like back when we used to be in studio, Jenna, and you would accidentally spit across the desk at me. I mean, when you intentionally spit at someone, it happened all the time. You're allowed to hit them. So here's my take, Wilds. If you allege someone spit at you and you can prove it, your suspension goes away. But if you're lying about them spitting at you, your suspension gets tripled. So the suspension would be paused. It's either going to be 0 or 6. If he was spit on, 0. If not, it's 6 games. What say you, Kevin Wilds?
Okay, that's... Well, was that so? It was like the Rondo Chris Paul story, right? That like it was like an alleged spitting that never happened. Brian, the only reason I wouldn't say that I think this is a fine suspension, there's no actual damage. So it looks bad,
oh my goodness.
But when you punch someone and they literally don't move, I think that has to be taken into the equation. When it's literally like no harm, no foul, literally no harm.
Where's the second spitter? Have we seen the end of Jimmy G as a 49er? We're moving on because those takes were terrible. His season derailed by injury yet again. We'll tell you what it could mean for his future in the Bay Area.
What?
That's next.
Jenna,
First things first. The worst.
Great.
The worst. This weekend, Pac-12 football returns as Arizona State takes on USC in the big noon Saturday game of the week. That's on Fox. Or over on FS1, Big Ten heavyweight Michigan battles Indiana. Both those games Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox and FS1. And as always, streaming live on the Fox Sports app. All right, back to last night's game, which was better than we thought it was. Giants, Bucs. Tampa favored heavily in this one. You wouldn't know it by the way they were playing. Took a stop on a two-point conversion to come away with the win in regulation. The flag was thrown, but it got picked up after further review. And Tampa Bay escapes just barely with the narrow 25-23 win. They improved to 6-2. Here's Giants head coach Joe Judge on that controversial no call.
Yeah, I thought Nate made the right call when he threw the flag. So I'm not sure why it got picked up. We had a pretty good view. I know they can't use the jumbotrons for replay. We had a pretty clear view of that as well. But I thought Nate made the right call the first time. I thought, normally your first instinct is the right one. So.
All right, Brandon, let's start right there. What did you make of that no call at the end?
Great job picking up the flag. I absolutely love it. Look, a couple years ago, the refs were way too involved in the game. I love them getting this right. He didn't violently run into the pass catcher. That didn't happen. That was a great defensive play. I love that they picked this up because this is how football's supposed to be played. So great job to Nate, the ref, who picked up his flag.
Yeah, shout out to Nate. But, Brandon, it's not called violent pass interference. It's just called pass interference. And you've got it right. Maybe the ball was underthrown, but you do have a right as a wide receiver to go back and get it. One angle looks like pass interference. The other one doesn't. The fact that it was thrown, Nick, I feel like it should have stayed and give them another shot at it.
Well, listen, there is not DPI review anymore. If you throw a flag, and you are going to say there was no penalty, I need the facts on the ground to have changed. So, for instance, there is no pass interference if a ball is tipped. So you throw a flag for pass interference, the other refs come in and say, no, the defensive lineman got his fingertips on it. Okay, we'll pick it up. Called illegal contact. Well, there's no illegal contact if the quarterback's out of the pocket. Guy's watching downfield, sees the illegal contact, someone comes over, no, quarterback's out of the pocket. Pick it up, fine. The only facts on the ground that changed between when he threw the flag and when they huddled was the other refs reminded him of who the two teams and two quarterbacks are at play here. Nate is just watching the game. Then they all get together and they're like,
what is Nate doing?
Hey, folks, listen, man. Nate. We got the Bucs. They're everyone's Super Bowl darlings. We got the Giants. They're firing everybody anyway. They probably don't even want to win. They might want Trevor Lawrence. Let's do the Bucs a favor. Let's do our bosses a favor. Let's do the Giants a favor. Let's all go home. Let's not have overtime. Everyone needs some rest. Tomorrow's election day. We're already stressed out. Let's just pick this up and go home. If you throw the flag, you got to leave it. If you throw the flag, you got to leave the flag, Jenna. That's it. You didn't have to throw it. If you throw the flag, you got to leave it, Jenna.
All right, well, then let me ask you this. Regardless of what you thought at the end of that play, this game was closer than we all thought it was going to be. So do you think after watching the way the Bucs came out and played against the Giants, they are still contenders? I mean, they just barely squeaked by this team.
100%. And Nick, we talked about this earlier. Look, guys, if you want to see a virtual fight, you tune in to this show when we're discussing Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. We may be able to add Lamar Jackson into the discussion now because we started a little bit of this conversation. But this was one of those trap games that they actually survived. That's what this was. Sometimes as a player or a coach, you can walk in the locker room and know if it's going to be a good day. I tweeted Nick in the second quarter, and I was just praying like, please, Tampa, don't do this to me because I don't want to have to defend you guys with Nick Wright today. So Tampa was able to overcome this trap game. They had no juice. And you saw Tom Brady trying to control his emotions because he was looking around and seeing his guys like, what are you doing? We set the standard. We're saying we're going to go win a Super Bowl this year, and we're going to come and lay down to the Giants on Monday Night Football. That's why you saw Tom Brady so emotional and trying to contain those emotions, because the team had no juice. You can see it right away. They just had nothing to give.
Brandon, he was also probably very, very disappointed in himself, because you've made it very clear that everything good that goes on in Tampa is because of Tom Brady. Oh, the defensive linemen don't jump off sides anymore? Tom Brady. Oh, it's unseasonably dry and not as rainy in the Tampa area anymore? Tom Brady. And they don't have letdown games. They don't have look-ahead games to the Saints. Oh, but they did. So Tom Brady's probably walking to the sideline very disappointed in himself. Maybe he should have spent less time this week helping Antonio Brown pick out his bed sheets, since he's now his roommate once again, oddly enough, and more time juicing up the guys who actually play with him. But Wilds, here's the thing. I tried to tell folks, but it's really weird. Hey, Antonio Brown, come live with me again. But listen, we can discuss that another day.
It's not weird. It's not weird. I live with Geno Smith.
It's weird.
I live with Geno Smith. I lived with Geno Smith for 6 months.
Brandon, absolutely. And I bet you were a wonderful house guest, and you are welcome to live with me anytime you want when you move to New York. Antonio Brown is not Brandon Marshall. But again, let's stay on topic here. Wilds, the Bucs stock was trading almost as high as the Chiefs stock was a week ago. And I said if you owned it, you might want to consider selling it then. It's now trading a few dollars a share less. What is it going to look like when the Saints beat them Sunday? When the Saints are not only up in the standings, but also have the divisional tiebreaker? Because we can excuse this game and say they were looking ahead to the Saints game. They were focused on that. But they got out with a win. Fine. But if they lose on Sunday, and I think they will at home to the Saints, then you must seriously reevaluate them as a contender in the NFC.
Oh, you keep moving the line.
I'll give you the reason why they're going to lose. Curtis. Oh, KW doesn't get a shot at it.
No, KW doesn't, but JW does, because she gets to move on. We are going to talk some Daniel Jones, who was once again careless with the football, and it cost his team. I mean, we say this every week. He threw 2 interceptions in the second half as the Giants were trying to hold Tampa off. All right, Brandon, where's your confidence meter on Daniel Jones as the Giants franchise quarterback?
Low, extremely low. The guys last night did a good job of highlighting, what type of career he's having. It's a hot start. He is on pace to do exactly, well, he's right. He's doing exactly what Ryan Leaf did. He's Ryan Leaf Jr. So for me, let's take away the turnovers. All right, we know that. Everybody talks about that. That's surface. What I want to see when I'm evaluating a quarterback, are you making the right decision when you're supposed to? You go back to the 2-point conversion. He's supposed to take the flat right away. He's indecisive. He's staring down the slant. You have the flat, bro. Why is your feet moving? Just throw it. You're putting your team in position to win. The sluggo to Sterling Shepard. You got to hit that. Most quarterbacks underthrow that. Most quarterbacks like, oh, he's so wide open, and you actually got to come back to the ball, and the receiver's usually like, man, if you just hit me in stride, it's a touchdown. These are things that we can't see from Daniel Jones. Now, if we want to shift the conversation back to the interceptions, let's look at the last one that he threw, or one of the ones he threw last night. You're turning the ball over every game. So you mean to tell me you got a defender, you got a defensive lineman draped all over you, you're trying to make a play, I get it, but you're just going to throw it up? There's nothing in your head that tells you, let me protect the ball. I say this all the time. Ball security is job security, yours and mine. We can't win a game if we keep turning the ball over. You won't have your job if you continue to turn the ball over at this rate. I don't care who you have. I don't care if you have high school wide receivers and tight ends. You need to do the right thing with the football.
See, here's the tricky part of this. That's a bad play. The first touchdown, though, was absolutely beautiful. And I think, Nick, that's why we're having trouble trying to figure out who this guy is. So through the next 8 games that the Giants have, I put the 8 quarterbacks in 2 separate categories. Good category, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Kyler, and Lamar. Then the not-so-good category, whoever Washington's starting, which Dwayne Haskins lost his job, same draft class, Wentz, Baker, and probably Andy Dalton. It's going to be January 2nd, I think. So I think over these next 8 games, you got to look at Daniel Jones and be like, hey, which category does this guy belong in? I don't know. If he belongs in the Wentz-Baker category, it's probably time to move on.
So here's the thing. He'll be lucky if he can belong in the Wentz-Baker category. He's terrible. And you watch it, you know he's terrible. And
there's only 2 categories.
The interception at the beginning of the second half, Brandon, was unspeakably bad because you know what they said to him at halftime. We have a lead. We're playing well. Just take care of the football. Jason Garrett's quote from before the season. I told Daniel Jones, this is a quote from Jason Garrett. I told Daniel Jones that every drive that ends in a kick is successful, meaning we think punts are good because you're so awful.
Nick, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Nick, sorry to interrupt you, please. What did they tell him? Do it again, please, man. What did they tell him at halftime?
They said,
please do it again, bro. What did they say?
At halftime, just don't turn it over. Take a sack, fall on it, throw it at Joe Judge. Don't do this. And he can't help himself. So, Wilds, I get it. He does have 3 or 4 times a game. You're like, wow, he just made an elite throw. He absolutely can make throws that Teddy Bridgewater can't make. And Teddy Bridgewater's a fine starting quarterback. But he is addicted to turning the ball over. He has started 20 games. He's turned the ball over in 19 of them. He's turned it over multiple in 12 of them.
Okay, so when?
This is
when do you make the call?
A talk show host who it's last year, but certainly at the end of this season. He's done.
Listen.
He's done. He's done. He's a talk show host, Brandon, who has...
you never want to go back to a player and talk about what they do bad, right? So I love that because I can visualize guys walking on eggshells in the locker room at halftime like, we're about to beat the Tampa Bay Bucs. Don't turn it over.
And he just turns it over. He just turns it over. Wilds, he's a talk show host with great takes who every show drops an F-bomb. No matter what. Like, it doesn't matter how good the takes are.
I wanted to know where you were getting at.
You can't just do that every day.